Hello everyone, welcome to old viewers and new viewers alike. We are constantly asked questions about whether we can make rugs, small carpets on the gentle roller. Occasionally asked about thick felted horse blankets on the gentle roller. So I'm going to attempt to make a rug or small carpet or maybe a horse blanket. We usually work with merino, but we've decided to work with my least favourite material, Bergschaf. It's very water repellent, it just doesn't like felting, it doesn't like shrinking. We'll do it anyway. And I've made a couple of pre-felt squares using a blue Bergschaf. I have two of those. And we've made a pre-felt square in a red Bergschaf, and I have two of those. And I'm going to use the coloured bits obviously to embellish the top of my rug or horse blanket. And I have here surprisingly about 1200 grams, the natural Bergschaf apparently. It's not coloured. Doesn't have any dye in it, so that'll help, but we'll see how we go. I started by marking out my rug template with masking tape and our solar pool bubble. The size of the template was 2 meters by 1.1 meters. I covered the template with one layer of painter's drop sheet. I also included a 10-inch section of plastic around the border. I intended to roll these over the edges of the wool to keep the edges smooth and avoid jagged edges and loose edges which I had seen on my pre-felts. For the pattern, I cut my red pre-felt into 12.5 by 12.5 centimetre squares and 12.5 by 25 centimetre rectangles. I cut the blue pre-felt into 25 centimetre by 25 centimetre squares and then cut them diagonally into 2 triangles. This gave me matching lengths from which I could work my pattern. The pattern was slightly smaller than the actual template so that I could put a natural colour border around the outside. I laid the pre-felt into the desired pattern on my plastic and I loosely tacked the corners and edges to stop the pre-felt pieces from moving. Where coloured pre-felt panels met, I put a small amount of remaining loose coloured fibre over the join, and for the rest of the design I filled in my first layer of natural Bergschaf, trying to lay it as thick as the pre-felt shapes. I continued laying natural Bergschaf horizontally and vertically until I had used up the entire 1.2 kilograms. As laid, the bundle was about 10 to 12 centimetres thick. I wet down with plenty of soapy water, which as expected simply ran off the fibres and pooled underneath. I used my edging panels to seal the edges before covering the top with another layer of plastic, and I wanted to compress it before trying to put it on the drive roller. I achieved this by using my idle rollers to roll across the top of the bundle and compress it slightly. At this point it would have been sensible and worthwhile to use my foot massager, which you will see later, or a palm board to flatten the fibres even more before taking up on the drive roller. There was a lot of air trapped between my plastic sheets, which I had to let out by puncturing the plastic with a pair of scissors as I went. I was concerned about the amount of plastic I had at the sides, so I folded the edges over to form a nice neat bundle to go onto the drive roller. I took it up on my drive roller from one end. Very important to note is that as you are rolling the bundle, it is necessary to lift the bundle slightly in order to help it roll evenly on the drive roller. Also important is to spray a little bit of water on the top plastic sheet to allow the plastic to slide and move if necessary. Initially the bundle was too big for one Velcro tie, so I had to join two together to get around the bundle. As you can see, the bundle was extremely large. My intention was simply to get it on the roller and start the process. The idle rollers must be placed on the closest comfortable possible tooth of the pivot hook. Simply lift the pivot hook and place the idle roller as close as possible to the drive roller without using any force. Because it is such a large piece, I only wanted to roll in one direction. This is discussed in other videos, so I will not elaborate here. I reset the defaults to reverse rotation only. And I only wanted to begin slowly, so I started the process at 65% speed. A quick squirt of water on the plastic to help it roll. I had found with the blue and red pre-felts that the wicking effect of the fibres was very ineffective unless I used quite a lot of soap. So for my large bundle I had already applied a large amount of soap, which you can see coming through onto the rollers. The bundle was rotating nicely and well under control, and it was already noticeably smaller after 150 cycles. As the bundle changes diameter, you may need to change which pivot hook tooth you are using for the idle roller. As described in the instruction booklet, the idle roller should be sitting almost in a horizontal plane with the drive roller. So if they're too low, you don't get any agitation, and it doesn't really help the felting. If they're too high, you don't get a lot of agitation. So just if everything's in a horizontal plane, that's good. Because it is such a large piece, I didn't want to take it on and off too many times, so I let it run for 400 cycles before doing the first check. As hard as it may be to load it onto the gentle roller, the rolling is a breeze, and I can just stand by and watch. After unrolling, I gently tug the bundle to stretch it out. The fibres were still quite loose, so I decided simply to take it up again from the opposite end and do another 400 cycles. Initially, I couldn't use the top idle roller because of the size of the bundle, but as it has compressed, I'm now able to add the top roller, which provides just a little bit more agitation to the wool and helps the felting process. Just rolled it back and gave it a few rubs with Joni's massager. The reason being was that I found there was air bubbles between the grey Bergschaf and the pre-felt. It hadn't connected, and there was large air bubbles sitting under the surface of the grey. So I was trying to squeeze those air bubbles out, and in doing a quick look and check, I've noticed that some of the pre-felt is a little dry, and there are areas in the grey where the grey wool is completely dry on the underside. It's remarkable the amount of water and soap I've got on it, and yeah, it's completely dry on this side. I'm going to, distracted. I'm going to wet this surface, wet these dry areas. A quick reminder that as I roll the bundle up, I'm lifting it to keep the wool even on the drive roller. A happy accident was that as I pulled the bundle toward me, the entire solar pool bubble was sliding on the table. This actually made it a little easier to roll up. If you're doing rugs on a regular basis, I recommend that you add weights to your idle rollers. My back idle roller was an old PVC core which I had filled with water, and my front idle roller was an aluminium core which I filled with some stainless steel bar. The stainless was noisy and not particularly practical, but worked for this application. If I was doing it on a regular basis, I'd probably fill my idle rollers with plaster of Paris or something similar to give them about 1 kilogram of extra weight in each. At this stage I was running 75% speed, and this was the fourth run of 400 cycles. I had done 2 sets of 400 cycles with the pattern on the outside and 2 sets of 400 cycles with the pattern on the inside. Working both sides ensures good even felting throughout. During changeovers, I carefully try to stretch out the rug, rub out any creases just using my hands, and quickly check the pre-felt pieces. You may find the rug is a little soft in the centre, as mine was. So before beginning the next set of rolls, I spent a few minutes with my foot massager, gently massaging the centre area, and a few minutes concentrating on the edges of the pre-felts. I use a foot massager. You could also use a palm board or whatever tool suits your needs. Rolled felt is always more worked at the ends and looser in the middle section. To add a little bit of agitation to the centre area, one option is to use false ends, and this works very well for thin items. For thicker items, another option is to add a piece of bubble wrap with the bubbles facing the wool. The bubbles provide additional agitation in the centre of your bundle. At this point, I felt it would be a good idea to remove one of the plastic sheets, as the carpet was being so well protected by the plastic sheets that I felt it couldn't move. It was not expected to move much, but I just felt the plastic was not allowing any wriggle room. I always take great care when rolling onto the drive roller, as this is where you will either create a good shape and finish to your piece, or if not done properly, you will put creases into your felting project. It's very hard work. It's not a project I'd recommend people do in a hurry. You'll want to be quite strong to do it, and you'll want to be quite patient. As you can see, the carpet is looking pretty good at this stage. It's holding together well, and I just need to full it. Before going in the drum, the carpet is around 122 centimeters by 186 centimeters. My original template was 110 centimeters, but during the laying I had decided to go slightly larger. The usable size of the drum is just under 120 centimeters. I put the top sheet of plastic back on my bundle just to make sure the carpet didn't stick to itself as it was tumbling in the drum. As you can see here, we often use a piece of bubble wrap inside the drum, which I didn't think was needed on this occasion. If you're making a heavy piece like a rug, please do not rely on the drum locks to hold the drum closed. They were not designed for this much weight, and your drum will blow open and destroy the latches. You need to use external straps on your drum to hold it closed. Unfortunately, I lost most of the fulling drum video, but you can watch my other modern carpet video to see the fulling process there. So here's my finished rug, and it's developed a couple of creases you might see on the edges where it's been hanging over the clothesline, but I'll iron them out or work them out. Just didn't bother here. There's a couple of things I could have done better, but for the, if you like, the second go in 5 years, it's come up pretty well. I'm calling it my Mexican carpet. It's pretty hard wearing. I don't know why I did it in Bergschaf, but there you go. You can tell it's felted well because the red pre-felt and the blue pre-felt is covered in grey fibres where the grey has come through from the back. So clearly those fibres have tangled together, and if I turn it over, you can see the coloured pre-felts through the grey fabric. So clearly the red pre-felt has penetrated through to the grey, and the blue pre-felt has penetrated through, and you can see all those patterns. So we've got good intermixing of the fibres. They've really meshed well. It feels quite robust. It's pretty soft and flexible, which is good. You could probably paint on a plastic backing if you wanted to make it hugely durable. But there it is. My Mexican rug. The finished rug is around 95 centimeters by 156 centimeters and about 5 to 5.5 millimeters thick. My original layup was 120 centimeters by 200 centimeters, so I had achieved about 22% shrinkage in both directions. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this video.